Hey everyone, I'm Amanda. Before I tell you my story, I want you to know something important. I'm telling you this because I grew up in foster homes, group homes, and places like that. By the time I made it to this city, I had lived in so many different places I'd lost count. You see, my childhood wasn't exactly what you'd call normal. Different families, different placements, different faces looking down at me with that mix of pity and frustration. My biological parents? Well, let's just say they weren't exactly in a position to take care of anyone. Dad was locked up and Mom was fighting demons of her own with drugs. It was a tough childhood, no sugarcoating it. By middle school, I'd already had my first taste of the system, juvenile detention, probation, the whole 9 yards. But that was just the beginning. At 13, and I want you to really think about that number for a second, 13 years old, I started working as a prostitute. I know what you're thinking. 13. That's a kid, right? That's someone who should be worried about homework and crushes and what to wear to school. But life doesn't always give you those choices. I had run away from the placement home they'd put me in, and I wasn't alone. Another girl ran with me. She went back to that house eventually, but I stayed with this guy. And that's where everything changed. Now I'm 23, and I've had many pimps over the years. Let me tell you something about working with a pimp. It's not like what you see in movies. It's exhausting, degrading, and you're basically handing over every dollar you make to someone else. You get a room, some food, maybe a few clothes, and they do your nails, whatever they want you to look like, and then it's back to work. 7 days a week, no breaks, no holidays. There's always a quota. Always. And I was usually the only girl working for whoever I was with at the time, which meant even on slow days, I had to make that money. When each encounter is bringing in maybe $40 to $60, and you're told you need to make $2,000? Yeah, you do the math. That's a lot of men, a lot of nights, a lot of situations where you're just trying to survive until sunrise. I never had a night off unless I was working for myself. And even then, it wasn't really time off. If I couldn't make my quota because it was too cold outside or business was slow, I'd still be out there. Some nights you'd make $1,500, $2,000, and you'd think, wow, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of men. But what emotions does that really represent? The thing I've grown to understand is that this life is hard for any woman. It's hard to sit and think about because just like a lot of the girls you might know who are in this life, when you tell someone who doesn't understand or hasn't lived it, it feels like you're being judged. It's like you're being categorized. Oh, she's just a prostitute. She's only good for that one thing. People think you're doing it because you love sex or because you must enjoy it somehow. No, it's so much bigger than that. Most people don't understand what drives girls into this kind of life. They don't see it as survival, but that's exactly what it is for many of us. For me, it was about survival because I have run away and gotten involved in this world. It felt like the only thing I knew how to do besides maybe getting a regular job. And let's be honest, I didn't have much education and I had kids at a young age. When pimps are involved, it gets even more complicated. I have 2 children, and right now my grandmother is raising them, though I do have joint custody. But being in this life, being on the streets, working for someone else, it makes everything harder. Today I work independently without a pimp. But I want to tell you about something that might shock you: face tattoos. Pimps use face tattoos as branding, especially on the face, so everyone knows who you belong to. I never tried to hide mine with makeup. Never thought this is their way of marking you, of claiming ownership. You try to hide them with makeup and then you get beaten. Most of them use physical violence, intimidation, and power to control you. They do these things to maintain control and you hand over all your money. It's not random, I got beaten pretty badly for not following these rules. You can't work without a pimp, at least not safely. My last one was actually an ex-boyfriend who I convinced to act as my pimp. I just needed that kind of protection because so many girls get killed out there and you feel so unsafe. I told my ex-boyfriend, look, if you come and watch over me, make sure nothing happens to me, I'll give you half of what I make. He was actually the only pimp who treated me fairly and well. But that's rare, so rare. Drugs are absolutely part of this life. What drugs do I use? The addiction part of it is what keeps you trapped in this lifestyle because you really can't function outside of it. Finding a regular job becomes impossible when you're using. I've been using on and off for about 3 years now because it was starting to hurt me in the end. But it felt like the only way to escape. When I was high, I wasn't thinking about anything else. I wasn't thinking about going out to work or any of the horrible things that happened. I was just going out, making my money, and I'd be okay because everything felt blocked out. You become numb to everything. Sometimes, without drugs, life feels troublesome, depressing. It's such a stressful lifestyle. Are you addicted to this life, to the streets? Most girls I talk to say they have to live this way. If my kids need diapers or I need to pay the babysitter, I know I can make that money in an hour. It's not really about saving money when you're in this situation. Can you save money? If you can, that's great. You're one of the few who actually manages to save. Especially now that I don't have to give it to someone else or feel like I'll get in trouble if I don't hand it over. Now I have priorities and goals to get out of this lifestyle because this is the ultimate goal for most women who get trapped. To get out, but it's not easy. You're never really left alone. There's always a pimp, someone you have to give your money to. They provide drugs, a place to sleep, and they keep you alive, barely. It's nearly impossible to save money when you're being drugged and trapped in a life with no exit. My mom was also a drug addict, and here I am living the same life. My brother killed himself. Sometimes you have to admit that you failed at life. I've never had a loving relationship. Just this life where you're passed from pimp to pimp and they've all either sold you, beaten you, raped you, or taken your money. The drug addiction is what really destroys your self-respect, makes you weak, and as your health deteriorates, you become more dependent. This kind of life, it's not sustainable. I've come close to death twice. There have been people who pretended to be pimps when they weren't, and that's dangerous in a completely different way. The first time I got into a pickup truck, there was a car seat in the back, so I wasn't thinking anything of it. Let's just go to some dark street and get this over with. Halfway through the ride, I felt something metal against my back. When I turned around, the guy had a gun pointed at me. Of course, I panicked and started freaking out. I tried to open the door, but he had child locks on. I tried hitting the windows, and this went on until he told me that if I didn't shut up and stop hitting the windows, he'd kill me right there. So I stopped and let whatever was going to happen. Eventually, he threw my phone out the window, drove to another location, took off his condom, raped me, and stole everything I had made that night. When I went back and told my pimp at the time what had happened, he said, "I don't care. You still need to go back out there and do what you do." The second incident happened about 2 years ago. I got into a guy's car and he spent the whole time talking and then wanted his money back. There's always been a rule with everyone I've been with: you never give the money back. You get the money first, and if they spend their time talking or doing something else, that's their mistake. So I didn't give him his money back. I told him to drop me off on the side of the road, and he started speeding up faster and faster. I think he got up to about 60 or 65 miles per hour, and I remember opening the door, covering my face, and just jumping out. I thought I was just going to scrape myself up a little bit, but my whole body was scraped raw. I went to the hospital about 3 or 4 days later because my pimp at the time had gotten arrested. So it was hard for me to get up and do anything on my own. Jumping out of that car hurt so much. When I finally made it to the hospital, they told me it was good that I came in because I was suffering from third-degree burns. I had burns on my shoulders, both knees, both hands, both hips, my cheeks, and my head was cracked open. I needed more than 30 staples and stitches, and I needed skin grafts. I had to relearn how to walk, how to write. Any job that has the risk of these kinds of things happening, most people would just quit. And I did for a while because not knowing who was in that car, I jumped out of scared me. I couldn't put a face to it, so I knew that if I saw him again, I might not recognize that I shouldn't get in that car, even when you're out there. There's no guarantee about the next 2 seconds, let alone the next 2 days. Your instincts have to be very sharp. You absolutely will not just jump into anyone's car. I've seen many girls just walk away from certain vehicles, and I don't know why they do it. But if the windows are tinted, if it's a certain type of person, I was even told I couldn't go out with older black men, and sometimes I would rebel against that because every pimp isn't sitting there watching every car you get into. But you learn to read the signs, to trust your gut. Do you ever tell yourself you deserve better than this? Yes, I believe that. That's great because nobody deserves to have their life put at risk like this. Nobody deserves all the harassment that comes with it. I did fall in love once. It was going well until it wasn't. It was hard because the guy was the complete opposite of what I was used to. Instead of all the fighting and harassment and having someone constantly pulling my hair, hitting me, kicking me when I was down, spitting in my face, here was someone telling me I was beautiful every time I woke up, treating me with respect, making sure I was okay, making sure my kids were okay. I think that was kind of more about me, and the reason it didn't work out was because I couldn't be what he needed me to be. I couldn't adjust to that life. Do I have friends? No, when you've been doing this job since you were 13, you're alone. I always say my children are my friends. I've been on the streets for 10 years now. The streets change people, it seems. I don't trust people anymore. What has this job taught me about men? I think most of them are married. Yeah, married. Or in relationships. Many of them have secret lives that you would never think about. You could see that half of these guys had wives, 4 or 5 kids, working good jobs, but they're coming to see you every night. If you're unhappy, you should leave your family. They don't deserve this. They didn't ask for this. But I guess everyone has their reasons for doing what they do. Some of them have crazy requests. I have one guy who just pays me to sit there and talk about my day for 10 or 15 minutes, while he massages my feet and takes a picture with my feet on his face. That's fun because I don't have to do anything except sit there and let this guy rub my feet. Do you encounter men who ask you to do things without protection? Yes, I run into a lot of guys like that, but in my mind, I think if you're asking me this and you're telling me I'm the type of woman who will say, okay, just give me extra money. How many other girls have you done this with? And I have kids, so I don't want to take that risk. What advice would I give to a young girl thinking about getting into this lifestyle? It's not worth it. Absolutely not worth it. What's my biggest regret? Probably having kids and then going back to another town where I could have had a quiet life. Just ... what single quote says the most important lesson I've learned in life? There are probably a few. Don't drop your guard too early. You think it's okay to tell people some things about yourself, but not everyone needs to know everything because some people don't have the same intentions and they use that against you and your weaknesses. Never let anyone dictate who you are. Don't let them have that much control over you when you're not happy or you feel like you don't know what you want to do with your life. It's a hard lifestyle, isn't it? Very hard. It's not for everyone. A lot of people don't think they know what this life is about. Everyone thinks they can get in. Everyone thinks they can get out. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. I remember when I was in juvenile detention waiting to be sent to Hawaii, I eventually became friends with 2 or 3 girls in the youth quarter. One girl had court, went to court, got released, and her pimp was driving by in an 18-wheeler. He ended up running her over and dragging her. It was all over the news. We couldn't watch the news, but everyone knew what happened and who did it. So there are things like that. Girls trying to get out of their lives, but someone saying, no, you're staying here. It's sad, very sad, and it makes you think twice about the lifestyle. But what I mean is, if you really want out, there are always people willing to help. Even when it seems like everyone is against you, there's always someone who's not against you. I have a niece who is following steps similar to mine, and this situation has been affecting me a lot lately. It put me in situations where I wanted to get out, and I said no. She caught me at a weak point, and it was just like, if you don't care, then I don't care either. If you think you're ready, go ahead. And she'll get to that point where she's about to do exactly that. She still has that baby face, still has her innocence intact. No, this isn't the life for you. You feel like you're better off finishing high school and going to college, doing something with your life, and she's told me a few times, oh, I want to be like you. No, you don't, because sometimes I don't even want to be like me. But it's sad to see someone else before they get older asking me to help them do the same thing. I can't do that to her. Even some of the girls at home are doing this now. They call themselves my roommates, and they're like, let me come out with you. And no, I prefer to go out there alone. If something happens to one of you, not everyone has street wisdom. Some people think they can get into this, and it'll take them to a point where they'll kill themselves or overdose. Just like some of these guys think they can be pimps, but behind closed doors, they're all very loving. Sorry, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do this. You shouldn't try to lose who you really are. You're trying to become something. You're not. This is the summary of 23 years of my life. Life goes on. I covered up my old tattoos with new ones. Life continues with my new tattoos without a new pimp. I wish everyone good luck. And to myself too, the scars are still there on my shoulders, my knees, my hands. But they're reminders now, not just of what happened to me, but of what I survived. Every day I wake up is a day I get to make different choices. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's easy. Some days the old life calls to me. Some days I think about how quickly I could make money if I just went back out there. But then I think about my kids, about my niece, about all the girls who look up to me or who might read this story someday. The thing about rock bottom is that it gives you a solid foundation to build on. And I'm building now, one day at a time. I'm learning what it means to have self-respect again, to make choices that aren't about immediate survival, but about long-term hope. I won't pretend that I have all the answers or that my story has a perfect ending. I'm still writing it, still figuring out who Amanda is when she's not just trying to survive. But I know one thing for sure, I'm not going back to that life. I can't. Too many people are counting on me to keep moving forward, and for the first time in a long time, I'm one of those people. If you're reading this and you're in a similar situation, know that you're not alone. Know that there are people who will help you if you're ready to be helped. And know that you deserve better than just surviving. You deserve to live. The streets taught me a lot about people, about survival, about the darkness that exists in this world, but they also taught me about resilience, about the strength that comes from hitting bottom and deciding to climb back up. I'm still climbing. And I'm not stopping.